computer. All right, let's talk about new site 4. So we are on module 4. We are on week. Okay, what's going on? We are in week 19. And it is Monday, the 9th. So here's a review for the component lifecycle with class-based components. We could talk about this. I might get to this. I might do new site 4 and all functional based components, and then if there's time, I'll do it in class-based components and leverage React lifecycle methods. But with that, let's talk about new site 4. All right. So let's just go ahead and fork this over. Tom create new site 4. I'm going to create that fork. It's forking over. All right. So next, I'm going to clone this down to my local machine. So I'm in CP challenges, Charlie challenges. I'm going to do git clone, new site 4. Great. Before I even touch this, I'll go ahead and just read through it. So high level overviews, we're going to build out a section page. So we have that nav bar at the top that has like home, world, like business, different news topics. So we'll build out that section page to actually, when we go ahead and click on one of those topics, it'll actually route us to a specific URL and only filter based off of the section. And then what else are we going to do? So create an article search feature on the homepage. I might do it differently. I might do both. You can have it in the homepage or even in the nav bar, but that takes a little more finesse. But I think it looks a little more appealing than having it on the homepage. But we'll see what we have if we have time to do and how well I remember React. I should be all right. All right. So if you want to use your own code, go ahead and copy the entire source directory from new site 3 repo and paste it directly into this repo. I'll go ahead and try to do that. I might even clean up some stuff because I think I'm using an old library from new site 3 and I kind of want to update that. So we'll go ahead and do that. So where's new site 4? I think it told us to, did it say replace the entire source directory? Okay, I'm kind of like scared to do that, but might as well see what happens. So I'm going to remove new site 4. Then I've got new site 3 right here. I'm going to copy that and go up to new site 4 and paste that in there. I'm going to look in my package.json file because I know I'm going to probably have some differences here. So I've got React 17, React Router DOM. So React Router DOM, it looks like I'm using an older version of that. So I think what I might do is also look at my old new site 3 and update these packages. So React Router DOM. So I might run into some errors with this. If I need to, I can refactor as needed. React Bootstrap, let's go ahead and update that. I'm going to do that. It's React DOM. So I'm actually looking through here and comparing the versions of some of these libraries because I want to try to make everything work. I think there was another one. So Moment is what I'm currently using for time, but I know the Moment library is no longer being updated and it's not good practice to keep third-party libraries in production code that aren't being maintained anymore because it could have some issues. But I think this might still work, but we'll see. What else do I have? React scripts 4.3, 2.5. Everything looks good. I don't see anything that's glaring that might run into any issues. What is that? React router DOM, already got that. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about what I'm doing and why I'm doing it?
I have a question.
Yep.
Why wouldn't you just, I guess, basically delete that original package and just copy the one from new site 3 over?
So when you mean delete the package,
So kind of like how you
like
delete
the like this whole file, maybe?
Yeah, and then just copy the new site 3 one over.
Like
why go piece by piece instead of just whole package?
Because I don't know, it's more of like an attention to detail, because I might paste over something that I don't know 100% that I'm pasting over. So, and also typically the names and versions of the package, they would be different. So I think this one's just called state changes. So I guess that's the same, but like, I think in theory, I could just copy it all over and paste it without doing much checking, and I'm sure it'd still work. I might run into some errors, but nothing that would be totally daunting to overcome. But here I'm just being very deliberate as to like, all right, making sure they're the same versions, just because I don't want any unintended errors. That's pretty much it.
Okay, I just wasn't sure if there was like a specific reason or just personal preference.
Nope. Just kind of, I've done this like for a few years now, and I think I've done that in the past. I'm like, I'm just gonna copy it, or just even in like personal projects, like, and it's always come to bite me in the butt where I'd have to just, kind of revert back and be like, all right, where's the mistake? Where's this error coming from? But all right. Any other questions?
I mean, just also, if you were doing that to compare them for differences, wouldn't it be faster and more accurate to like run diff on the two files from the command line and actually get an output to save yourself?
Yeah. Definitely use get diff if you want to compare two files, and it'll show like the differences between those files. But yeah, I just wanted to make sure that I have all the same packages and all that. And that's just the way I did it, was just. All right. So I'm going to go ahead and go into news site. Was it 3? No, 4. All right. So what I'm going to do is open this up into a new VS Code window. So it's going to reload. And hopefully everything is going to be working. So we do have this API server. Did y'all go over what this is?
We didn't really talk about it. The README talked about how it was just another endpoint.
Yeah. So this is just to simulate a API endpoint, but you'll never actually have like an API server type of file in here. This is just to simulate going to like an API endpoint. But if you could inspect in here, and you can actually see all the data. Like, was it config? No, data sources. So this is where like the server is being made. And this is kind of like a light server. So yeah, you can see all this stuff, but it's really not that important. You don't have to need to know what's actually going on there. All right. So I clone this down. I've got a package.json file. Now I'm going to npm install. So it's going to read through this JSON package.file, grab all the dependency packages and install them into or put them into a big directory called node modules. And that's where all of our stuff is going to reside. Just some advice is when you work on all these challenges, and as you're working on your machine and you have like a gazillion React apps, node modules is a really, really big file. So as long as you have your package.json file, you can go ahead and delete your node modules on all your projects that you're not actively using, because they do take up a lot of space. And if you ever need to free up space, go through your node modules or just delete all of your node modules directories, because if you ever need to work on that application again, you can just do npm install and it'll reinstall all the node modules for you. So as it's installing, let's see. All right. Anybody have any questions? Anybody do anything fun during the weekend? Anybody see Doctor Strange or anything?
NCAA volleyball championships.
Oh, dang.
My oldest boy graduated this weekend, so
Oh, sweet. From,
high school.
oh, nice. Does he know, is he going to go to school? Is he going to go to college, or is he?
Yep, he's going to be a chiropractor. That's
Oh,
his goal.
nice. Nice. All right. So npm install, I'm going to go ahead and npm start. Hopefully everything's working. If not, we'll go back and debug it. Where the hell is this coming from? All right. Come on over. It's still loading. All right, so here is my React app, new site 3. If I go, you can see here I got articles 1. And you can kind of see all this stuff. And then if I open up the console, I should be able to see, it looks like I already have some console logs in here. So if I go to like opinion, world, national, business, if I go here, I can see I've got article page and you can see the articles. All right. So let's go ahead back to new site. All right. The section page will be used to display articles that belong to a specific section, specifically opinion, world, national, business. The section page should be loaded when a user clicks on one of these options in the top navigation. The route that should be displayed is this route right here. Cool. So for example, by clicking world, I should go to section/world. This page should only display articles whose section property is set to world. All right. So let's go ahead and so we need to create a section page, define the route to point to the section page. All right, it looks like utilize the fetch articles by sections function. So if I'm going to come down here and source, looks like that API directory now. And looks like we have, do I have all of them built out yet? I do not have them all built out yet. But I've got fetch all articles, fetch articles by section. So I have to build that one out. And I've got a URL variable. So here's where I go to URL or fetch article by ID. Cool. All right. So let's just go ahead and create the section page and define the route. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here, go into pages, create a new page called section page.js. I'm going to do RSC, React functional component. And this always is going to take in props maybe. I always kind of do that. And I'm just going to do an H1 and say section page, just so it displays something. All right. Now, if I go over to the app.js, all right. So now I can go ahead and create another route. Go to not articles, but we want to go to section / section ID, and we want to display the section page like that. And it should have automatically imported the section page for me, which it did. Cool. All right. So if I go to here, hopefully it'll say the section page. So if I come over here and click section slash, I don't know, world or whatever, and click enter, I get the section page. All right. I'm going to split the screen. So I've got section page on one side. All right. So all I did was create the section page, put that in the same directory as the pages. So it's in the same directory as our home page and our article page. And I created a route using React Router DOM version 6, where created a route that goes to the path section / section ID with the element being display, or the component to be displayed when I visit this path is the section page, which it does. Questions on that? Nope. All right. So I've done 1 and 2. So now within section page, utilize the fetch articles by section function. You created the new site 3. I don't think I created that one yet. To retrieve articles by a specific section and to store the response in state in this.state.articles, or if we're using functional based components, which we are, some article state. And then it says pass the article, whatever. I'll just try to get this part first, try to get this API to work initially, and go from there. All right. So all right, so when I load the section page, how I need to somehow extract the section ID from the URL. And where do I want to do that?
When the component mounts.
When the component mounts. So right when the component mounts, I want to extract the section ID from the URL, pass that section ID into that fetch articles by section API, and go to get all the articles by that section and somehow display them. So what hook will I need to use for that?
Use effect.
All right, I'm going to use effect. Great. So I'm going to go use effect. All right. I'm just going to make sure just it fires once initially. Maybe I'll have it fire more than multiple times. We'll just see. All right. So what I'm going to need to do is somehow grab the, what is it? Grab this section ID from the URL. I'm just going to go ahead and console log props just to see what props are. Maybe they're anything, maybe they're nothing. All right, they are nothing. So how can I grab the world section ID from the URL?
Use params.
Use params. React Router DOM. All right, API reference. All right, so I've got API reference on the side. Click on that. So I can grab use params. All right. So it looks like I need to import use params from React Router DOM. And it looks like I can grab the section ID from the URL, but it's called section ID. So let's go ahead and console log the section ID. So if I come over here, it's undefined initially. So why is that? Looks like ID is different. So let's see if that works. Whoop. There we go. So I've got world showing up there from on section page line 9. Great. So I can just say let section ID equals, well, I guess I don't even need that because I've got the section ID up there. So how do I want to do this? Let's go ahead and set section ID. Can we just pass that section ID directly into the API? So I can say import fetch. What was the name of that API? So I'm gonna have to build that out. So I'm gonna bring it over. The articles API is over here. So fetch articles by section from API slash article API. So I can say, I don't know, fetch articles by section, pass in that section ID. Let's see. I'm just gonna just console log the section ID initially. Or I guess it's just a section. Like that. Uh-oh. Fetch articles by section is not exported. Yes, it is. So why isn't that working?
So I had this issue. I think it's what we kind of wrapped up with on Saturday. When it was exported by as default, Chad actually named it API and then called it as part of API, part of that package, or you can get rid of that and then just call it by the name.
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna import it like this. All right, still not working. Why didn't it work? Failed to compile. I don't care if it doesn't contain a default. It's weird. What the fudge? Always just do. There we go. Oh, look at that. All right. I guess I'll just do the API thing. So import articles API. Then if I just do articles API dot, there we go. All right. So I've got world. I'm just gonna go ahead and look at my network. I'm just gonna clear that. So comes over here. localhost section world. All right. So let's go ahead and actually fetch articles by section. So how do we want to do this? Do you want to use dot then or async await?
I think away.
All right.
That's what I prefer. Is there much difference or one more used than the other?
Async await's the new way, and it's just kind of like easier. But I'll also use a try catch here. So try catch block. So what that's going to do, it's going to try and execute this block of code, whatever's inside of this try. If there's any errors, it's going to jump down to this catch and it's going to catch any errors. So I'm just going to do const response equals await fetch. I'll use string interpolation. I think I've got that URL. Well, not rule. URL at the very top. So API / articles. What does that look like? Such articles by section. So I guess I can go back to new site. Let's go back to new site 3 so I can actually kind of see. I come back here, new site 3 to see where I can. What in the hell? Oh, so right here. So here's what I'll need to add some where section equals section ID or whatever that's supposed to be. So here it's like where the byline equals this value. I could say where the section. So is it articles / do that. Let's all put that on the same line. Where, and let's not put spaces. Instead of filter ID, I can put section equals section, something like that. So if we get a response, and then I'll do const data equals await response.json. And then I'm just going to console log data initially. Then if I get an error, whoop, looks like I'm getting some. Where section equals world. Oh, looks like there's a space there. Maybe that's why. Look at that. Oh, no, that's still failing. Oh.
Does it also need that?
Oh, yes, you are correct. Thank you. So I need that filter equals right here. It looks like. All right, compiled successfully. All right. So if I do get any errors, I'm going to do console error. Or I can console log, but I can also do console error. I'm just going to say there was an issue retrieving. I think I spelled. Section articles, something like that. All right. So if I come back here and refresh that. Look at that. I get a bunch of articles. And if I come over here and look at their network tab and do a hard refresh, let's actually clear that, then do a hard refresh. Goes to section world. That's great. But if I come down here, I get another API request. So response, and then I scroll down here. See the payload, got that filter, and now you can see the preview of the response and the actual response. You can see that in the network tab as well to make sure that your network requests are going out. So here we can just audit the data we're getting back. So we have section world, which is good. Section world, if you wanted to go to like national, I get 9 articles back. National. Cool. So we have our API request kind of looking. Well, so that's we're just console logging it. Now we just got to return our data from our API. Let's go ahead and refresh that. Okay. Now, inside of our use effect, we're going to have to do something with this. So, I'm going to do a dot then here. And I guess I'm going to also have to use use state. Const, I would say articles, set articles equals use state. So I'm going to have to do something with, I need to store those articles somewhere. So I'm going to say use state. So here I'm going to do articles. So I'm fetching all the articles. It's coming here. And now it's going to do dot then. Say like articles. I'm going to just like console log the articles up here. See if we actually get something. So if I refresh, there we go. We have our articles coming on the section page now, inside of the section page component. So now what we can do is just set articles to equal the articles. I can even just call this, I'll call it article response. There we go. So now we have a bunch of articles. I'm just going to come down here on line 16 and console log the state of the articles right here, which is on line 7. All right, so I'm just going to do a hard refresh. So initially, articles is undefined. Let's actually add it as null, or we can do an empty list. I love that. That's great. Let's see. Yeah, let's I'll set it as an empty list for right now. Yeah. So if I come over here and do a hard refresh, it's initially an empty list, and now it's a list of articles. So just a quick recap. We created this use effect. We don't have any dependencies on this use effect. So if you just have empty array, it's only going to fire once. So right when the component mounts, the section page mounts, it's going to come into this use effect. It's going to extract the section ID from the URL. It's going to pass that section ID and the fetch articles by section API, which we're importing up here, passing that section ID. Then we get the article response, or I guess fetch articles passing that section ID, comes over to the section articles API, passes in that section. We're using async await, so we need to put add async. And then we're doing having a try catch block. It's going to try to execute all this code within this block. So we do await fetch to where the section equals the section ID. We get a response back. We turn that response into JavaScript objects. We assign that to a data variable, and then we return that data variable. So we pass that data, which is now an article response, and then we set the article response, or we set the article response to the article's state inside the section page. Questions on that? And since this is just a one line of code of where we're setting the articles, we can get rid of that square or angle or curly brace. And there we go. All right. So let's just see if it works. So we've got national articles like so. Now, if I click business, I get business to show up, but it's not switching to business. And that's not working either. So let's see, how do we do this? So essentially, every time I click opinion, world, national, business, I wanted to dispatch another API to the fetch articles by section API. So what we can do is in the section ID, let's go ahead and assign, let's create some state called section and set section, and initially have that be null. And in here, I'm going to say, what do I want to do? I'm going to have set section to section ID like that. So I'm setting section to section ID. And now I'm going to use this section in the fetch article response like that. And now, so let's actually just go ahead and console log section. So if I come over here and refresh that, so section is, so it looks like it fired a couple of times. Opinion, world, but it's not. So it's not displaying the articles anymore. So what can we do? Let's go ahead and let section param or section URL equal section ID. Just want to see if this works. Console log, that's probably going to do the same thing. All right. So now it's not even doing any API request.
I have a question.
The section's undefined when it first renders. Sorry, Brian.
Yep. So
when in your use effect, when you put
There
the
we
empty array at the end, doesn't that tell it to always just run one time? So
yep. So now we can say when the section changes. So initially it's null, so it comes into here. And when so when the section changes values, I wanted to dispatch, so that worked. Still not working. Let's see. So section URL. So we get it to go once or twice. If section do I even set the section? So I just want to see something. Oh, no, we want the section. Still not working.
Does the nav bar need an actual link or a route?
Oh, you are right. Yeah, that's why. I'm an idiot. Thank you. So yeah, the reason why that's not working is because when I click that, it doesn't change the link, which won't change the parameters, which then won't extract. Okay. Thank you. So let's go ahead and I'm going to go ahead and do some. What is it? Section. Just want to see if I can. So national page. There we go. That's fine. So I'm getting that. So this will display the national page. I can even, so section page. And now let's go to pass this to the article list. All right. So we can import the article list. There we go. And I can say articles equals articles. Like that. Now, hopefully everything's working. Cool. So there's the national page. All right. So now let's actually fix those links. Do we even, or before we do that, so yeah, let's go ahead and all right, so far, can everyone see my screen?
Yes.
Yep.
Cool. So far, we've got a section page that renders whenever we visit the specific URL endpoint, and it displays. That doesn't look right, does it? Title by David so and so. So when I click that link, interesting. So why doesn't that? It looks like it keeps displaying the very first article. So if I wanted to display the last article, we'll figure that out once we get to it.
So somewhere in the code, we did something where we had the index -1 or something like that. I don't remember why we did it. But I was playing around with mine and that's what it was. I don't remember where it is or what you have to change, but.
Okay, yeah, we'll figure that out. But yeah, we'll make sure everything's working. But let's keep going. So for the section page is going to be mostly identical to the home page. Consider copying the code from the home page and pasting it into the section page and adjusting per specific. Did I even build out the home page yet? Let's take a look at the home page. All right, cool. So the home page should work. So if we looked at the home page versus the section page, yeah, pretty much everything's the same. I'll deal with so article list, articles, cool. All right. So section links and nav in the current app nav, the component accepts a function called handle nav click. The function provided via the prop is called when one of the nav items section is clicked. Ultimately, we're going to use the functionality to redirect / link to this section page, but there's a better way. We can simply use the link from React Router DOM. That's up to you. But let's see if we can do something else. So if we come over to the, what is it? The app nav. Right here, we have a key link, handle nav click. There we go. All right, and this handle nav click is being passed in from props from the app.js right here. So we're not going to be using that anymore. So I'm going to delete that and go over to app nav. So when I click that link, I'm going to want to do something. I'm going to push it somewhere. So I don't need props anymore. So does anybody have any ideas of how we can redirect or push this to a user or to a different URL endpoint?
I think we use navigate.
All right, so we use navigate. So we've got use navigate up here. Click on that. We can import use navigate from React Router DOM. Like so. Let navigate. Create section. So handle click. I think it's just navigate. Like that. So passing that nav item value. Is that how it goes? So it looks like success. So maybe it's section. So section / something like that. You can always test it out. Let's see if it works. So I'm going to refresh. I'm getting a bunch of errors. App nav component. So it says use navigate may be used only in the context of a router component. So let's go to my app.js. App.nav is outside of the router component. So in order to use navigate, I need to be inside of the router component. So I'm inside that router. Got the app nav. Now I should have access to that use navigate. So I'm currently on business. If I click the national, we've got national, we got world and opinion. And notice how every time I click it, nothing's changing. Like the page, I'm still on the business. Even though I'm on national, I'm still on the business page and none of the articles are refreshed. But every time I do it, a different API request is executed, or an API request is executed. So let's go to the section page and see what's going on here. I can say, I'm just gonna console log. I don't think I need a section URL. I'm going to do section ID. Section ID. section ID and section. So I'm console logging the section ID and the state section. Let's just go ahead and refresh. Whoa. All right. Oh, come on. So let's refresh that. Hopefully it's working. All right. So, now, all right. So it's not even going in there. I'm just going to get rid of this if statement. That. All right. So now we've got that working. Not working, but so we've got opinion, world. All right. So how do we want this to work? So we need to execute this use effect every time this ID changes. Let's go ahead, do that. Still not working. Can make it infinite. So that's, you have an infinite loop. So we could say like if what should we do? Anybody have any ideas?
What was the, I vaguely remember, but it was something like if bang section, something like that was used at some point.
Like bang section?
Mhm.
I don't know. What was that? What was that supposed to represent?
I can't remember off the top of my head, but I just remember that being used in place for something.
Okay. Let's see. I'm gonna say when the section ID changes. When the section ID does not equal, well, hold on. Section URL equals section ID. The section URL does not equal the section. Then do that. So let's. All right. I'm gonna have to do state. Oh. There we go. So I've got, initially it's null. And then it grabs that. So now they're the same, but if I click national, so there, that's starting to work. So world, opinion. Okay. So right here where state is world, and then I click the section URL. So now those are different, and it's going to be executing that use effect. There's another way to do this. I'm sure there is. Trying to think. Does anyone else have any suggestions?
My first thought was to manipulate the actual link to send it to create the URL there and then hope that it would just work on the endpoint.
Just manipulate the link here. Is that what you're saying?
Like the when you're actually mapping through and creating the links for the nav bar, I'm not sure if you could just use hyperlink reference. I think there was another attribute called to for that component that would reroute it.
Gotcha.
But I haven't gotten that working yet.
I'm gonna try something. If section ID does not equal section, set section to section ID. So that will I'm just so I got it to work. I just want to see if this will work. Section does not equal if let's see if this works. Okay, yeah, this is a little bit cleaner. All right, so when the component loads, so I didn't want it to just be an open one like that, because that is actually being called a bunch of times as like the infinite loop. So I actually wanted it to have a dependency on there. So this use effect only gets called when it wants to. So I have, once the component runs, it comes in here, I've got this if statement, if section ID does not equal the state of section. So the first time it loads, section ID is say business or opinion. Section is null, so they don't equal. Then I set the section ID. Well, then it comes into here, use effect if section. So if section exists, the first time it doesn't, it's null. So it doesn't get into this, doesn't go into that if statement. But when I set the section ID, so that changes, and this is a dependency. So section does change values. So then it triggers that use effect again. Now section has a value, then it jumps into that article API. So that was my logic there. All right. So that is working. But when I click tenure or whatever that, it always goes to the first article in the index. Why is that? So when I go to the article page, so I should go to the components, article, right here. When I click, where's that link at? No, that would be the article teaser. Handle click, article ID. So, and the ID comes from props, which comes from article list. So that's where it gets its value from.
Yeah, looking at the article teaser, we have ID +1.
Yeah. But so it doesn't matter with the +1 because it just art loops through the articles by its index. So there has to be some other attribute on here. So right here, I get article ID. So I can just grab article dot ID. Because if I went to the home page and it listed all the articles, does it? No. I'm sure the article ID isn't. So maybe I don't need that one anymore for the article teaser. So if I click world, I'll go to national. There, I've got the same values.
Yeah, I played with that for a while until I figured that out. And I just vaguely remember on Thursday, there's a question and somehow something was solved by adding that +1. And I don't remember what it was. But
So yeah, that was when you initially loop through it because it would start at index 0. So you would need to go to, instead of section or article /0, you would need a 1 there because like RESTful APIs, you always need a value, not 0. So it'd be like article /1 instead of article /0. So that's why you add the 1 to that index and then you would subtract it if you were to go back. That's it with regards to why you would add the plus and minus 1. All right. So that is working now. Section page. So article list, article teaser, section page, articles. Great. Cool. So now, all right, here we're talking about a link to navigate to articles. We can talk about here. So this is written for class-based components, component did updates. For functional components, we use the use effect. We're not using the match props.match params. This is the old way. You just want to use the use params. All right. So now we're in the article search. Let's add the ability to search for articles on the home page in order to accomplish the high level things we need to build our add a new function in the articles API that accepts search terms, constructs a filter, use filter object using that search term and add that input box. So here is that search term. So let's go to the home page and let's open up the articles API. And it looks like the fetch articles here has the option to take in filters. If there aren't any filters, it's null. It looks like right here, we already have some logic in here that will accept filters. So if filters exist or if filters do not equal null, that means we have filters. It applies those filters. Else it's just an empty string. All right. So let's go to the home page. And this is the home page. And we want to add the ability to search from the home page. So what we can do, I think I'm using Bootstrap or React Bootstrap. So I'm going to go to React Bootstrap. I'm going to look for an input. Might add an alert. Let's actually, yeah. So components. Badge, what am I looking for? Ooh, forms. So we want something like this. So we need a form group. Let's see. thought our nav bar had like a form example. So something like that. So what I can do is just grab the form like so. I'm just gonna paste it somewhere inside of the homepage. I'm gonna format it just to get everything indented. So it looks like I'm gonna have to import form control button from React Bootstrap. All right. So just see what that looks like. So I got this big search thing, search bar. I could add some margin to it. There we go. That's probably too much. There we go. All right. So I've got a search bar. Now I want to, let's see what it says. We have input group, handle search. So we have an on change event handler, or we can have an on submit. Here it talks about having an on change, but so anytime I type in the search, it would update this in real time, which I don't want because literally every time I make a change, it will dispatch an API request, which is very intensive. So like right there, do an API request. For every change, it would create an API request, which I don't want. I just want to search for like, I don't know, Marvel movies or Doctor Strange, like that, and then click search and then have it display the articles. What questions do you have about that? Anybody? All right. So again, I just imported this form from React Bootstrap. Everything's kind of already, I can like make changes if I wanted to it, but this is fine. All right. So I'm going to have to do, what am I have to do? I'm going to have to create like a const handle search. I'm going to have an event.prevent default. So when I submit that form, it doesn't refresh the page. So let's see what I need. All right. So when I click submit, so I'm going to say on submit inside the form, I'm going to say handle search. And what do I want? I'm just going to console log the event initially. Hopefully I can get that to trigger. Reference error process is not defined. I don't know why that keeps. Anyway, so I'll refresh. I'll search something, Dr. Strange, click submit. Nothing is happening. So on submit, type search. What is it? Type equals submit on the button. So that's associated with this button. So Dr. Strange, click submit. There we go. Now I've got the event to show up. Event.target. I've got input. So event.target. Should click search. So there's my form. Event.target. So inside my form control, I'm going to create another attribute called name. I'm going to have that called search as well. Like you can call it whatever you want, but let's go ahead and then in the event.target, I'm going to do event.target.search. Let's see if that works. May or may not. So event or whatever. So there's my input. And now I can do dot value like so. And I can say, this is my input. And I can extract the input right there. So now I can extract the input. I can say let search query equals this input value. And now I'll want to articles API dot fetch articles. But now I want to actually pass in my search query.
Tom, quick question.
Yep.
So you created the attribute search, and then did search.value. What's the difference between doing that and doing like event.target.value?
So if I do event.target.value, let's see what that's going to look like. See, nothing shows up. And it's because you need to, I think you can do event.target. Let's see if event.target.elements or something. But you can inspect target. Oh, it's because I wasn't. So here, elements is a form control, which is a list of what's inside of my form. So inside of my form, we have this input and we have this button. And you can see we have this input and this button. So I can do event. If I know what index that is, I can do event.target.0. And now I can say, there's my input. Now I can do dot value like that and extract the value that way as well. But I added this name attribute, so I don't have to memorize what index that input is within inside of this form. So I can just say dot search, which is the name of this input, and extract the value that way.
I see. Okay, thank you.
Yep, no problem. So I can handle search. So I pass in that search query. Let's take a look at this API. We might have to adjust it. Filters. So if filters doesn't equal anything, doesn't equal null, then I'll add the filters. So here inside of the search query, I can't just have just the search query. I have to actually build out that this part of it. So I can say like let filter equals but I'm gonna have to like where this is where things kind of might get a little difficult. Where title need to, because this has to be almost like JSON. I like. But here. So there's my filter. Oh, shoot. So now I'm passing in that filter into the search query or the fetch articles. Then I could say like search response. I'm just going to console log the search response to see if I even get anything. There we go. All right. So if I refresh, and I'm going to search for VOL because I know this has VOL. And if I'm searching for something in the title that contains whatever in there, and I can click search. Oh, I got an error. Let's see what I'm getting. Do I have a bunch of spaces in here? I probably do. All right, let's try that again. PRAE. All right, I'm still getting errors. Where's that? Do I need something like that? So where it's kind of just trial and error. NOS. All right, still not working. API articles. Oh, looks like I needed that filter equals again. Maybe that's it. Bunch of errors. VOL. There we go. So I've got 8 articles returned that have VOL somewhere in the title. VOL, 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 VOL. Cool. So I've got that response. Now what I can do is set articles to that response. And if everything works correctly, I can say VOL. It updated. Can't really tell it updated, but it did. You can add some additional logic. So maybe like, hey, if search query dot length is greater than 0, then dispatch the API request. Whoop. Well, hold on before I do that, because like right now, if I just click search, nothing's going to show up. So I only want to dispatch that API when there's so the length. Oh, still not working. So when search query dot length is greater than 0. So now if I just search, nothing shows up. But now if I search for VOL and search, it shows up. What else can I do? If there is a length, let's see if this works. If I just, oh yeah, so I don't even have to have that. So VOL. Maybe I also want it to display like the, like a message or something. So, because
Maybe
there's
like
no,
the number of results or something like that.
yeah, we'll do that. So, up here, I'm gonna just say like message, set message. And then once I get a response back, I can say set message. Your search returned search response dot length results. Then down here, I can
You get a typo in search response before you try them.
thank you. And then maybe above the form or below the form, I'll just say, hey, if there's a message and display what we have in React Bootstrap, an alert, do something like that. So an alert. Key, I don't know, have it be like success or what are the other ones? Secondary, maybe. Secondary. And display the message right here. I don't know why I keep doing the double brackets. There we go. So now if I search for VOL, click search, yeah, I need to bring in the alert button or the alert component. So VOL. So your search returned 8 results. I can do primary if I wanted to, and class name equals MX5, just to give it VOL. So it looks like the variant. There we go. Something like that. National. So everything's working now. Great. So just a quick recap of what he did on the home page. Right here, I added a search bar. I used React Bootstrap's form control, and button. In the form control, which is just an input, I added a name search. I added the type submit. So this button, when I click it, is going to submit this form. So when I click that submit button, it runs the on submit and it executes the handle search function. So that handle search takes in an event prevent default, prevents the page from refreshing. I extract the query from the input, console log in the query there. You can see VOL, me doing that right there. And I'm creating that filter. I'm doing it here. You don't have to do it here. You can also do it in the articles API if you wanted to, but I already had this, this kind of already built out. So I didn't want to mess with it. So I created the filter here. And I'm saying, hey, if the search query has a length, then execute that API, the fetch articles API, where I'm passing in this filter. Then I get that search response back, and I set the search response, which is an array of articles. So I set that response to the article's state in the home page. And I also set a message saying how many articles got returned. And then there, it displays that message. And I'm saying, hey, if there are articles in the article state, pass them in as props in the articles list component, which then article list. So it gets the articles from props and then executes this get all articles teasers, which grabs all the articles from props, maps through them, creates a bunch of article teasers, and then just keeps going down the line. Where are the article teasers? Then I get an individual article and yeah, navigate to that individual article. So if I just go to VOL, scroll down, grab that one, 331, 331. And I still have a whole section page working. What questions do you have about? Well, let's just see if there's anything else we have to do. Oop. So we have make it functional. Can you extend the search feature to work for the home page or any section page? Consider moving the search input to the app nav component. So if I wanted to move this form control to the app nav up here, how would I do that? See if navbar form control and button. So if I wanted to add it up here versus the home page, how would you go about doing that? Where would you extract that from? How would you set the articles from? Because what you'll have to do is somehow be able to pass in the response you get back from the app.nav component into the home page somehow. So that is a good test. This is not necessarily true. I didn't do this. So the way that you saw me do it, completed this extended challenge too. All right.